For all time, always. Loki is no longer the god of mischief. He is now the god of stories. Just like in the comics, he went through that transformation here in our season finale. We all kind of knew it was coming. It was to be expected. But the way it happened was really powerful. This was an episode that a lot happened. It was an almost an hour long, so it was a long episode, and a lot happened here. But at the same time, it also feels like it was really confusing. And then the stuff that did happen didn't happen because it's a time travel show, so like things are always like being undone. It feels like a lot of the stuff that happened in this episode by the end of the episode don't really mean much. Which is interesting, but there were still a lot of great moments here. And of course, guys, spoilers, for this season finale, and I'm thinking honestly series finale of Loki, with season 2 here. Yeah, let's talk about it. So, this, of course, follows up after last week's episode where Loki he's learned a time slip, so he time slips back to right before the death of Victor Timely, and he tries thousands of times to try and, get him out there faster, try and, speed up the process so that Victor Timely would survive and the problem would be solved. And then even once that works and they do get the loom fixed, it breaks again and they're right back to square one. So clearly things are not working here, and this is when he takes it back to the season 1 finale, the fight between him and Sylvie in the Citadel at the end of time with He Who Remains. And so it's this whole thing of like, he has to stop her from killing He Who Remains, and he can only do that by killing her. She says that repeatedly every single time that he meets her. If you want to stop me, you're going to have to kill me. And obviously he doesn't want to do that because he's in love with her. Even though now they're like just friends. I don't know, it's complicated. Like, it's also himself. He's in love with himself. Again, multiverse, it's complicated. Things are very complicated here. But he ends up having a conversation with He Who Remains. He Remains pauses time, and they talk. And basically, it turns out that all of this was planned. He Remains, he wasn't just going to let Sylvie kill him. He knew that all this was going to happen. He planned for Sylvie to kill him the first time in season 1, and then all of season 2 would happen, the time slipping and everything. That was all him, because he knew it would bring everything back to this moment, where now Loki is faced with this decision. And the loom was always a failsafe. It was always designed to fail, and that the sacred timeline would be the only thing that would prevail. It would be the only thing to survive. So Loki ends up coming to this decision that, again, as we all predicted, he would become the new He Who Remains. He becomes Loki Who Remains. And again, it's this really beautiful, powerful moment where he walks out there, and all this temporal energy, it turned everybody else to spaghetti. But no, he starts walking out there, starts stripping his clothes off, and then suddenly like a cape forms and his helmet crown forms, and he kind of gets back to old-fashioned Loki. Obviously, he gets a new costume upgrade here, and he destroys the loom and then tethers together all of these branches, and he has now finally earned his place on the throne. He sits down and he tethers all these branches together to create not a new sacred timeline, but to create a new multiverse with true free will. He creates this new thread of multiversal timelines that, as we see, takes shape as, I'm probably butchering how to pronounce this, but Yggdrasil, something like that, but the Norse tree of life. So the multiverse has been reborn. It's not just a sacred timeline anymore. There are now branches. Get it? Branches, tree. So funny. But yeah, so this is a thing now, and this is what Loki wanted. This is what they all wanted. Loki now has this glorious purpose that he has decided to take on this burden, and he now sits alone forever at the end of time as Loki who remains, keeping the multiverse together. And everybody else kind of gets to move on and live their lives. We see B15 is, she's got a seat at the table at the TVA. The TVA is back up and running. Casey, Obi, they're all there. It's great and everything. Mobius decides to retire. He goes to the sacred timeline and he sees Dawn, his sacred timeline self, with the kids and everything. And I don't really know exactly how that works because, like, if there's another version of him on the timeline, how can he also live there at the same time? I don't really know. But I guess you could say he kind of gets his happy ending. We get a final moment with Sylvie as well. And then the season ends with... we do also get to see Renslayer in here. She gets consumed by a Lithe, so I guess she dies, but it's off screen. But whatever, I don't really care about that. And then our final shot is just of Loki, again, sitting on that throne with this glorious purpose. And that is that. Where things will go from here, I don't really know. Like I said, I don't think we're getting a season 3 because really, where would you go with a season 3? This feels like a series finale. This feels like the end for these characters. And I think we will see some of these characters return. Loki, I think, should definitely be a part of Avengers Kang Dynasty and Avengers Secret Wars. Like, why would he not be? Especially, that would be great to see him reunite with Thor. But Mobius is an interesting one because I remember hearing reports he was supposed to appear in Deadpool 3. Is that still going to happen? I don't know. We will see. Kang is another interesting prospect here because remember a lot, obviously, we talked about the Variety article that came out last week, the big drama spill in the tea article. It was saying that, they had seen the Loki finale and it set up Kang in a big way. I don't really see how this sets up Kang in a big way because He Who Remains is still dead. Victor Timely is still dead. And it's acknowledged that, there's still Kang variants out there, but that's nothing new. That's exactly what we were told from the post-credit scenes for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. This doesn't really do much in terms of Kang. It really just sets up the new Loki and the new face of the multiverse, which I guess is a good thing, but I don't know. I guess in a weird way, I just feel unsatisfied by this just because of how... Again, I feel like a lot happened in this episode, but a lot of it doesn't really matter in the long run. Like, this is a breakdown video. I could have gone way more in depth on, like, every single thing that happened in this episode, but none of it really matters because the big thing that comes out in the end is just that Loki decides to become Loki Who Remains, and that's the big thing. But other than that, there really isn't much. We don't get a post-credit scene or anything. Again, I just don't know how to feel about this. I mean, I still think it was a great episode, but I just am left confused and a little unsatisfied, to be completely honest. But of course, that is just my opinion. Of course, you guys can let me know your own thoughts in the comments below. Yeah, again, I enjoyed it. Loki is definitely top tier when it comes to the MCU, but just wasn't super satisfied with this finale. Of course, tomorrow we got the Marvels, so I'll be seeing that, so stay tuned for my reviews on that. But for now, guys, this was the end of Loki. Again, I don't think we're getting to Season 3, but I do think this was a good ending to that character specifically. It worked, and I do think we'll see these characters return again, but not in a Season 3. This is it for Loki, I think. So, anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I keep up to date on everything that goes on in the Marvel life.